The likes of Minnesota, Illinois, you may actually become relevant if Tony Petitti gets his way. And the Buckeyes, of course, headed off to the NFL draft. But first, there's a stop in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine. Welcome into Buckeyes Live right here, the voice of college football, presented by our friends at FanDuel. We come your way now at 4 p.m. Eastern time every Wednesday, so mark that down. I'm actually going to post a banner to ingrain that in everybody's minds. It's now 4 p.m. Eastern time every Wednesday. Kevin Noon's right next to me, BuckeyeHuddle.com, and we're all awaiting more editions, further editions of the Big Me podcast. How you doing, Kevin?
Doing okay. I knocked one out last week, so I mean, that one is more than none. We're getting there. Want to thank everybody who's reached out to me just to see what's going on and how to encourage me to do more shows. I think between Mark's prodding and y'all's prodding, we'll get there.
Let's get that done. If nothing else, it's a great name. I know more than that. I have checked in on a few, so I know that it's more than that, but I always thought that the name was clever. It was something that I just never had a talent for. Example, Ohio State Buckeyes Live. That's the best I can do.
Writing news teases and sports teases, you had to come up with that stuff. Now, as you get a little bit older, they don't naturally come to me all the time.
Steve Hullwagon's here, Bucknuts 247 Sports. Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm in Hilton Head, South Carolina, just taking a few days of R&R before I head back to Columbus here in the next day or so, and just having a great time down here. So figured, what the heck, let's take a break from vacation to talk some Ohio State football. What the hell, don't cost nothing. So,
well, Steve, we would have totally understood if you missed us this week.
Oh, I can't miss a week.
Got to be better things to do.
There's no way I could miss a week. So
you're a golfer, right?
Yeah, actually went out and played today, put a little 93 on the board, not threatening anybody with that. So, yeah, just having fun.
Playing from the golden oldies.
Yes, exactly. Playing up a tee box or two, and we're having fun.
Buckeyes Live once again, everyone, presented by FanDuel. Leave those comments, questions there in the chat. We appreciate your contributions via the super chat as well. Please like the video. It's easy to do. It's one click. Like the video and subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football. Kevin, I led with this. I was getting to the 24-team playoff that's been proposed and pushed by Tony Petitti of the Big Ten. We've kind of danced around the topic a few times here in recent weeks, but it's out there, and it seems as though it's generally been in the works and something that he would like to see come to fruition. How does that hit you? I actually, before you go, Kevin, I put on the title, and I was searching for a way to put emojis in the title because I knew that I was going to have 12 people say, "You're an idiot, Mark. You don't think Ohio State can make a 24-team playoff." Well, that was a little tongue-in-cheek, folks. Can the Buckeyes make a 24-team field? I don't know how this helps Ohio State, but it certainly helps the likes of, I mentioned, Minnesota and Illinois.
Yeah, think about all that money. That's what this all comes down to at this point, is expanding the postseason product and extricating more money out of the television partners, whether or not that's ESPN alone or you have other groups involved. I know that there are a lot of people out there, myself included, that would like to see the postseason not dictated by one outlet. Let's share the wealth a little bit. I think that's going to be better, but 24 certainly feels like a lot of teams. But, on one side, you got the automatic berths. Okay, the Big Ten and the SEC, do they get 6, under whatever in an 18-team playoff? And do the, Big 12 and the ACC get whatever? And then do you spread it out at that point? Or if you go to 24, do you just say, well, we just know that under that circumstance that the big conferences are going to get what's coming to them? I wasn't a big fan of going to 12 in the first place, and I've seen some good things in that in that window of time of going there. So, I'm not ready to immediately put my foot down and say this is going to finally be the thing that's going to kill college football. I put my foot down a lot. my foot's a little sore from putting it down and saying that this is going to kill it and this is going to kill it. So, no, to hell with it. This is going to kill it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's too much. I know that the SEC came out with more of an 18-team model. I don't know if I like that better, but I guess I like it better than 24.
Steve, 24, how does that hit you?
I don't like it. It's too many teams. Oh, my phone's going crazy. Sometimes there is such a thing as too much of a good thing, and I think that's what this would be. I just think that you having 24 playoff games, there'll be playoff fatigue by the time the thing is completely over with. And I don't think you're going to have the kind of audiences that you think. Now, obviously, to have 23 games instead of the current 11 games, that's, roughly double the product. But, I don't know. I just don't see a need for this or a clamor for it. I just don't know why this is so important. And I know nobody has enough money to make ends meet in this new frontier of college football or college athletics. But if this is the answer, I think you run the risk of the killing the golden goose that lays the golden eggs or whatever.
Tony's here. Tony Gerdeman, BuckeyeHuddle.com, the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. What do you think, Tony?
I'm not opposed to 24 teams. I think I prefer 16. I think in terms of playoff fatigue, you're removing the conference championship games. So in a 24 team situation. So I think that helps things. I think the fact that the first two rounds would be on campus helps. I asked this on Twitter the other day, like, what do you not like about 24 teams? And don't tell me that it will, reduce the importance of the regular season. Because right now, Ohio State plays generally 4 games in the regular season that they can lose, and they can lose 2 of those and still make the playoffs. So you're talking about a diminished regular season already for the top tier programs, but it enhances the regular season for everybody else. I know in our Ohio State sphere, we're not looking at it like the rest of college football, where so many more people now get to be involved. That being said, 24 teams is a lot, and I think that's why I probably prefer 16, in that there's going to be some disappointed teams that don't make it, and I think that helps. That helps the sport when there are disappointed teams that don't make it. I still prefer my grand idea that me and my buddy Tony Petiti, came up with the auto bids and the play-in game, so that a 16-team playoff is actually more like a 26 or 28-team playoff, because the play-in games are also playoff games. But you don't have to say that, because then it freaks out the people who don't like 24.
Yeah, so I just think it's funny that in a sport where we went from one extreme, just in 2023, we're playing with 4 teams, and now we're staring at 24, that we went from this model where you had to be elite, and a lot of people like that. And I am starting to maybe even embrace that, or remember the good old days of 4 teams and you had to be truly elite and have a great season to make the playoff. But I thought that was a bit extreme. And now, let's swing the pendulum all the way to the other side, where we could have. So the argument that I kept hearing when we went from 4 teams and expanded was, well, we're going to have these meaningless games, but meaningless in that if you're truly really great, if you're one of the best teams in the country, then you can kind of, do what we've seen teams in the NFL do in week 17, punt the game. It doesn't matter. Forget it. And I don't know that we've really run into that occasion. We had a Big Ten championship game that everybody loved watching because it had record numbers, but yeah, it didn't really matter because it just decided who's the number 1 seed, who's the number 2 seed, or flip them the other way. But my contention was, while we had a possibility of the rarity of teams being so good that a game or two didn't matter at the end of the season, we would have a vast number of games, dozens of games that would suddenly become relevant, where 7-2 LSU is playing 7-2 Texas A&M, and 5 years ago that game doesn't matter. It's a decent game, but it doesn't matter, and suddenly it becomes critical. But I think 24, you push it all the way to the other end of the spectrum where, I don't know, can Iowa and Nebraska line up on Black Friday at 8-3, both of them, and they're both making the playoffs? You lose the game, go 8-4, and big deal, you're a 23 seed instead of an 18 seed. Does that really matter?
I think expanding the playoffs is the only way to save the fun non-conference games, or else it's just going to be all crap every year. There's going to be no Ohio State, Texas. There's no incentive to do that because everybody's afraid. So if you keep it even at 16, I think people are still going to use the excuse of, we're going to do it Indiana's way and not do anything like that. So I think you need to either reward teams for difficult schedules, or you have to expand it to keep programs from bitching out with their non-conference schedules. But that's theory, because I still think you'll see programs bitching out because they'll just want getting in is more important than that one important non-conference game that the fans want. But even now, fans are like, why are you scheduling us a loss? We don't want a loss on the schedule. We are also bitches.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that are just going to be playing for the end of the rainbow's inclusion. They're not going to be playing to win the playoffs. They're playing to get in there, and whether or not their conference does straight revenue sharing or there's more of a graduated scale or whatever, get there to get the pay at the end of the rainbow. So, I don't know. As I said, I've been against the playoff every step of the way, and we've had some pretty exciting things, but yeah, I think that there are going to be some pretty, as you put it, some of these 8-3 versus 8-3 games that are suddenly going to be included as part of the playoff. If you want to get me on board, don't put everything in its own unique window. Let's go back to more of the bowl system, and let me flip around. Let me watch one game on ESPN and one game on Fox and be able to find the high points, because there are going to be some stinkers out there.
That's a really good point. If you staggered some of these starts, and if a game is a dog in the second half and you've got a chance to go kind of like the NCAA tournament and go, TNT, True TV, TBS, and CBS, and you got 4 games going at once, or 3 games maybe going at once, boy, that really kind of changes the complexion of the thing and does make it kind of an all-day viewing experience, as opposed to, well, I'll come back in 2 hours when the next competitive game starts, or whatever. So, or you have 2 teams that you really don't care to see, like, if Boise State plays Utah, you're probably not going to find me sitting in front of a television watching that. So,
yeah, you are.
And not if there's an Ohio State basketball game that I could be. Well, how about my boys last night here in, 4. How about here we are in week 15, and my boys have finally arrived at the party. So, maybe a little bit too much, too little, too late, like whoever that was that sang that song. But my boys are in there. They're fighting. They're competing. So there you go.
But even college basketball, that doesn't happen until it's 16 or 24 teams left, where you have where they're single windows.
Sweet 16, and honestly, they stagger it, one at 7, one at 7:30. That way, at halftime of every game, in between games, there's always a game going. So they do a great job of staggering the starts when they do have those 4 games for the 2 Sweet 16 nights, and then you have single windows after that. But yeah,
and it always seems like during that they'll have like there's a couple of games where they just have the one game going, and it's usually Duke,
Yeah.
and it's usually a blowout, and it's annoying. But I don't think I don't know that TV will want to do that just because they're paying such a premium where, for this, and there's only so many games that they'll be okay splitting the audience. But I do wonder about the fatigue of it all, and that sort of thing, even though it is a relatively short season compared with the off season. It's more better games, and I don't know why that's a bad thing. I don't know if it's a reason to go beyond 16, but that was my question on Twitter, is like, why is 24 a bad thing? Like, why are more games with between good teams a bad thing? And I think the one answer that I just keep coming back to is because you've got, 4 lost teams playing against 4 lost teams, and that should be, that should be something in the Outback Bowl, not in the playoffs.
Yeah, those are called bowl games. Should a championship tournament involve teams that have no chance of winning the championship, even if it's a good game? Nebraska and Tennessee could play this great game, but they're not winning the national championship.
You get blown out by 30 the next week by Alabama or Georgia.
How many playoffs that we've had in college football history of the 12 years now or whatever, where everybody in that playoff had a chance to win it? Even with the 4 teams, there were teams that didn't have a chance to win it.
Yeah, but
TCU that one year
from 4. 4 is a reasonable number.
TCU beat Michigan, didn't they? TCU that one year.
Yeah, but that wasn't fair because TCU didn't. Michigan didn't have enough time to get the plans there.
They did not.
So that was not fair.
They didn't know who they were playing.
Right. Weren't able to scout them. But I don't know. That's the hang up, I guess, is I don't mind more games. I'm not here to fight for 24. The most convincing argument that I keep hearing, like I said, is I feel like there should be some pain in not making it, and there should be good teams that don't make it. Basically,
well, 25 is going to be pissed. I can tell you that right now.
But
25
is that
going to be pissed that their 8-4 record wasn't good enough.
How many teams 16 and higher are still going to have opt-outs? Because it's like, well, we're just here for the participation trophy, and I'm in it for myself, and I just, I don't care. So I'm going to still opt out because it just doesn't really matter. I mean, we talk about meaningless exhibitions. All right, maybe it's a meaningful exhibition, but it's still an exhibition at this point, because in the next round, you're going to sit there and draw, a top 6 seed, and you're probably going to get your doors blown off.
You want me to play four more games, and I'm projected to go in the late first round?
Yes.
You must be you must be crazy.
I forgot about that argument.
If I'm going to play 4 more games, that's, this 800 large that you gave me isn't going, that's just regular season pay.
That was the argument I came up with when it went to 12. I forgot about that one. Yeah. If you're a particular player and you're playing for an 11 seed and you're looking at 4 games and you're a first round draft pick, I think we're going to start seeing some opt-outs there, unless
I love my boys. My boys love me, but they will not miss me. There you go. They're going to win it all without me.
I mean, it hasn't happened yet, even though it has happened where players are like, what's the postseason pay like? That sort of thing. But nobody's opted out of the playoffs yet. So that we're all, we all wait for it or expect it, but until it happens, you can't use that as a reason for not doing the playoffs. I think Ed Rogers there with the question, how many games are fair to the kids playing them? Who cares? Nobody cares about the kids anymore and how many games are fair. They're making their money.
What should we now?
Am I entertained? That's what it comes down to. Am I entertained?
Nobody's worried about how many games Aaron Rodgers has to play. I don't care how many games Julian Sand has to play. They're young. They can handle it. But people need to opt out before that starts being an issue. And then it needs to happen year after year after year, like it does with bowl games. And now that's kind of killed off bowl games. And how many people that are upset about the bowl games dying, like, then also don't want the playoffs? Because it's like, this is a way of kind of saving or making those bowl games important. Not that they would be the bowl games, but those matchups It makes them important. It makes that what should have been the Outback Bowl important between 2, 7, 8, and 4 teams. Whereas before it was just fun. And is that the thing? Is that the difference now? It's like, look, those were joke games. They weren't meant to be serious, and now you're trying to make them serious. And I'm absolutely outraged by it, because one of those teams is going to lose next week to the 8th ranked team in the nation.
How many of us here took those games seriously, meaning the 1996 Outback Bowl, or, fill in the year from the previous? I certainly did. They were
Hey,
serious to me.
I took them seriously when I was in college, because they couldn't win any of them.
When Jadeveon Clowney did that, whatever it was, that Michigan dude in the Outback Bowl or
Vincent
wherever
Smith.
that was,
Mm-hmm.
that was nuts.
South Carolina 2 years in a row against Ohio State. That was serious.
Biggest games in their history.
Right. And so then the winners of those teams would have gotten to go on. Like that's sort of what we're saying here. But again, I'm not saying 24 is better, is the best answer. I think it's probably too many, but I'm not going to get upset about seeing more important games. Like
Kevin,
more games of importance.
You posted something about a goal. Is this a men's
hockey?
medal?
Yeah, the quarterfinals against Sweden, 1-0, second period.
There we go. Keep it rolling.
Buckeyes Live right here at the Voice of College Football, presented by FanDuel. We appreciate you all being here Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. It's pretty apparent that many have not found us at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, blame me. These guys are showing up, though. 4 p.m. Eastern Time Wednesdays, and we will try to drill that into everyone's brains going forward. All right, Steve, you're hyped up about the basketball. What's the next matchup for the Buckeye basketball team?
They are going on the road Sunday, 1:00 CBS, I think, to play number 15 Michigan State, which just beat UCLA by 30. And, they are up to, I think, 17-9, 26 games played, 5 games to go. And they probably still need to win. Well, certainly at least 2, and I think they could feel better if they win 3 and get to 20 wins in the regular season, and then maybe add a win. If you have that good of a record, you're only going to get to play one really bad team in the conference tournament and win that game, and then take your shot. But I think that this was a good step forward. Their first win against a ranked opponent, 1-6 now against a ranked opponent. They still haven't lost consecutive games, but that theory is about to be tested because they are going on the road to play at Michigan State and then midweek next week at Iowa, who just beat Nebraska, I think, last night. And there was a little set-to after the game with somebody on the court with Fred Hoiberg, the Nebraska coach. But so winning at Iowa is going to be tough too. This may be the first 2-game losing streak for our guys, but they then close with Purdue at home, then at Penn State, and then Indiana at home. So got to feel good at least about those last 2 to get to 19 wins. And I don't know. They really do need to get to 20 probably to feel good about it.
Talking about events that mean a whole lot to some people and mean nothing to others, we've got the NFL Combine coming up in Indianapolis. So we've got 11 Buckeyes, I believe, showing up. I believe that's the count. Tony, do we have any particular player who really needs to shine?
Boy. You just look at it, and I'm just trying to think. With 5 guys projected in the first round, those guys should all be fine. It'd be interesting to see if like Max Clare can jump up into the top 2 rounds and do something there. I know people are kind of disappointed in his performance overall at Ohio State last year, even though he's like three catches shy of the school record, but maybe wasn't the downfield threat that Ohio State or people thought he could be. What about Davis Nigbinosin? I'd like to see him see what he can do with his size. He's got ideal size as a corner, but let's see with the speed. And the agility does for him to see if his feet can be as quick as his hands.
I think Big Noson's going to have trouble out there with not anyone to hold on to, grab.
Maybe that's why he's going to look good.
Okay.
He can jump out there when they're running the gauntlet or whatever, and he can like hold on to guys or whatever. I want to see Caden Curry, because Caden Curry has always kind of been a little undersized, and just see what he measures in at and how he performs, because he's somebody who always kind of played above his weight class. And I think with what a lot of people who are non-Ohio State fans expected out of an undersized kid. So, and being able to quote unquote go back home, does he get a little bit extra out of that too? But Curry is somebody that I kind of have circled on my list.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what, if anything, the first round guys like Downs and Styles, Reese, Tate, and Caden McDonald, what they're going to do. We don't know how much they're going to work out, or if they're going to save it for the pro day or what. But the others really do need to have a good combine experience and perform well, and have good interviews with the teams and everything that goes with it. I think about Lorenzo Styles Jr. I think he could be valuable as a special teams player at the NFL level. Is he drafted? I don't know. I mean, I honestly can't tell you. He struggled with that shoulder, the last half of the year. He was out of the lineup quite a bit. So maybe he's a guy. Will Kazmarek, is he draftable as a blocking tight end? I don't know. Guess we'll find out. CJ Donaldson, is he draftable as a late round running back? Probably not. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting getting to talk to those guys and see how it goes over there.
Yeah, it would be nice to see Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles both go and perform and do all of that, and just see them compete for all of these athletic notables at their position, because you're talking about two of the most athletic, biggest linebackers in Ohio State history, who probably put on a show at the combine as well. First duo to be first team All-Americans together at Ohio State ever at linebacker. And would be nice to see them do some of those things, but anymore it's, do very little, and then maybe do something at the pro day, or if not, then you do some private workouts or whatever, especially when you're already first rounders like those guys are, and Caleb Downs. It's almost like, don't show any more than you have to, because you don't want to prove, you don't want to convince somebody else, somebody that they're wrong about you. Though I do think the talk of like Arvell Reese in the top 5 is just, it's very, very high to me, just based on 1 year of production, and basically 1/2 of 1 year of production. And maybe that's just because I keep seeing him mock draft to the Jets, which really scares me for him at 2.
Yeah, that's kind of a kiss of death in terms of where your football career goes to go down the toilet or whatever. But yeah, it would be nice with the way the NFL does it at the combine. Generally, alphabetical. Reese and Styles would be close to each other, but you're going through all the interviews and all the medical and everything else, and there's just a lot of guys that would rather participate at on their home field under those types of circumstances, and you don't get as much from the guys there. And I mean, I get it. I mean, I understand it. It's frustrating as an NFL watcher. I love the combine. It's one of my favorite events. And we're seeing fewer and fewer guys. I mean, certainly when somebody says, I'm going to do everything, that you take notice, even if it's a guy that's like projected as a late third day guy. It's like, what? You're going to do everything? But if you're a top 20 pick and you're going to do everything, that just makes you an anomaly.
I also wonder how much longer the 40-yard dash is going to be around. Where players would just be like, watch the film, use the GPS that's there, and all, because players don't even run 40s until they get to the combine anymore, because it's all differently timed stuff. And so just use the GPS timing on any random game on film and things of that nature. I just that the 40, we say it's antiquated for the offensive lineman or whatever. I mean, Paul Brown created it because he wanted to find people who could cover punts. That was the gist behind it. And now it's like it still tells you who's fast, but we're seeing fewer and fewer people run it.
Yeah, in a few years here, we'll have one guy running it. He'll be named Rich Eisen. I guess that'll be it. It'll just be Rich Eisen. We'll run the 40.
And he'll eventually break 8 seconds or something like that. I don't know. I shouldn't make fun of him. He's in better shape than I am, but
he's faster now than when he first did it. He's faster now than when he first did it, I believe.
Yes, he's made fun of, which of course is part of the deal. You're going to get made fun of, but I'm actually impressed when I watch it. I'm like, yeah, they're making fun of him, but he's like 8 strides behind NFL wide receivers. Is that atrocious? He's like 52 years old.
Yeah, put him in a cover 2 defense. You're not asking him to man up on somebody. You just have him play some zone.
And all joking aside, doing it for St. Jude is it's such a great charity that he's doing it for. So, run, Rich, run. I'm not here to, we got a lot of time to hear about run, Rich, run, but a great cause that he supports there, even for a Michigan man.
And like you, Kevin, I have always signed up for the NFL Combine. The second it comes on, it's kind of like baseball opening day or the baseball playoffs or March Madness at noon on Thursday. For my entire life, the NFL Combine's on. It's 9 a.m. or whatever the time is on that Thursday. Boom. The NFL Combine is going to be on the TV for the rest of the weekend. And I'm pretty fascinated by it. I don't know that I watched it last year or the year before, though. I've kind of faded out of it, but typically I am. But what is more valid? You've got this underwear Olympics approach to it with all this testing that's artificial versus like a Senior Bowl or whatever they call it now, the East-West Shrine Game. These guys are lining up against each other, not just talking about the game itself, but practices all week where there are NFL scouts out there watching, left tackles take on edge rushers, and it's real football to a certain extent.
It is real football, but unfortunately you're not getting the top guys, because if we're talking about guys not wanting to go through the underwear Olympics of the NFL Combine, they're certainly not going to want to run the risk of getting exposed by an FCS guy at the Senior Bowl down in Mobile or the East-West Shrine Game. I don't even know where that one is played anymore. There used to be a third one, but I think that one finally went away. But the Senior Bowl is still by far the biggest name of the all-star type of games that they have out there. But and at this, don't forget the Senior Bowl, you have a couple of NFL staffs that are putting the players through the paces. They are their coaches for the week. So, and it's generally teams at the bottom of the rankings or whatever. So you would think that they would maybe be able to get their late round draft picks right, but they don't. And that's why they're there.
That's why you're the Bengals. They're there just about every other year.
I wasn't going to call anybody out.
This was interesting. Ted Carter, the president from Ohio State, did an interview with Dom Tiberi from Channel 10. And he says, I'm not even trying to make a headline here, but the current NIL landscape, quote, is not sustainable. And, I can read a quote of his here that I thought was pretty telling from this article. He says, I am worried. If you look at the trajectory of where we started and where we've gone in just the last couple of years, we've moved them from third parties to more interior. We've got this College Sports Commission that is supposed to vet all of this. It's not sustainable over the next 3 years unless something changes. Ohio State is still competitive. There's only about 5 schools in the country that can play at this level right now in terms of NIL and football. Unfortunately, we're one of them. But even at that level, when we want to field a good men's basketball team, women's basketball team, and compete in other sports, it is not sustainable. Something's going to have to give. So there's the president of the most important university in college athletics saying that the mode of transportation right now is not going to work in 3 or 4 years. So I don't know, talk amongst yourselves. I don't know, but to me, I think he's speaking my language here because I've never understood how you could go back to your fat cats year after year after year after year and demand 30-40 million dollars this is an investment. This is just something, a hobby. You want them to invest one way in a hobby, something that they do for 10 weeks out of the fall. You can't put them on enough team planes to send them to the Rose Bowl or wherever with the guys, to justify them spending that amount of money for a number of years in a row. I just don't know where this heads and where this goes. So I don't know. It's a messy situation.
40 million for football. You said 30 or 40 million, and that's not a dollar spent on another sport. And Ohio State is, prides itself on having the largest athletic department, the most teams and everything else. And I understand that they're going to be a lot of teams that aren't necessarily going to be queuing up looking, they're going to be looking, but they're, probably not going to be expecting to get a lot in the way of NIL dollars or whatever. But to, talk about Steve's basketball obsession or whatever, if every dollar you spend on basketball is a dollar you're not spending on football. And when Mark Cuban is spending money on Indiana and that rich oil dude for Texas Tech is spending money over there, it's easy to, maybe fall off the cycle a little bit at that point. So, it's a mess. I mean, we're already getting away from the $20.5 million number from the House settlement. And, we're not even talking about the House settlement anymore. I don't think anybody ever truly understood it. I mean, we got the ins and the outs of it, and I probably know less about it today than I did when we got the ins and outs of it.
Yeah, they set up the 20.5 as straight revenue sharing that goes directly to the athletes, give or take. And then they were like, okay, you may supplement this with whatever you and your agent dredge up, provided it's bona fide. Oh, and because we want to compete and we know we need an additional 10 to 30 million dollars to be able to put a 12 to 14 win football team on the field, we, through our auspices, will come up with an extra X amount of dollars, and we will disguise that as bona fide NIL for Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sayin and whoever, just so they don't get a wandering eye and think the grass is greener at Notre Dame or Alabama or somewhere else. So it's strayed so far off what it was supposed to be that you can't, as they say, you can't even recognize it anymore. And it's, I don't know. I'm glad I'm retiring in the next 5-6 years, hopefully.
I just feel so bad for Ohio State and programs like Ohio State that they bring in the, $90 million a year in TV revenue. And then it's like, well, we've got to give some of this to the players, and we can't just keep it all in house and use it for this or that. And then, then we've got to ask our local millionaires for handouts as well. It's like, well, get out if you don't want to do it. You're making a crap ton of money. You're all rich as hell. Everybody involved with the program is never going to have to work again. And so you're all enjoying Ted Carter. He's, making a couple $1 million a year. Ryan Day, this GM's making $1 million a year. It's hard work, but that's what the money's for. And all of the players, it's hard work, but that's what the money's for. I mean, Julian Sand could have gotten more elsewhere. A bunch of players could have gotten more elsewhere. And so you're trying to make it work how you can make it work. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying I don't want to hear any bitching. You go.
Quit your bitching.
Go change tires for a living. I don't care. Like this is fun. This is a vocation. This is just something to do. It's a game, and I get the concerns and I get the difficulty of doing this if you don't have a sugar daddy, and Ohio State doesn't, and so you're going to have to piecemeal it together, or maybe go to a 2014 playoff and then see what happens there.
Or
out on the street.
Or you go to, I mean, and I didn't really listen to the podcast, but Dan Wetzel on the College Game Day podcast talking about Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State, would they be better off going without a conference and being able to control their own monies and their own rights and not necessarily have to, these are my words, not Dan's. I didn't really listen to it. I only read the headlines, not having to share it with the Minnesotas and the Northwesterns and the Michigan States of the world or whatever. I mean,
Socialism.
I mean, if you have to sit there and self-sustain, then you have to self-sustain. And Ohio State and team up north and Penn State or whatever certainly are marketable brands and should be able to do pretty well on the open market. But I'm going to just warn you, though, for the people who are like, thank you, I've been saying that for all this time. You hate where Ohio State games are right now. Just imagine when there's the Ohio State version of the Yes Network or something like that, and you're going to have to subscribe to something else. And then when it crosses over and it's on the Penn State version of the Yes Network, and you're going to have to get that one and for that week or whatever. I mean, I don't know where it stops and where it ends.
And then Ohio State basketball has to play in the Big 12. All of the sports have to play in the Big 12, like Notre Dame does, except for football. Life as an independent isn't all that it's cracked up to be. And if you're going to step out there, just be prepared. But I do think it's interesting to where if you have the top 24 teams, the top 30 teams go off on their own, the amount of money that they could make if they do that. But then, that sounds great, doesn't it? But that's not college football. That's not what any of us ever fell in love with. That's not what the sport has ever supposed to have been. And then that's when eventually things die and the goose is killed because it's a completely different thing than it was before. At least now, Saturdays are still recognizable. The leagues are still recognizable. The games, the stakes, it's also recognizable. I don't know if that's going to be the case when it's a super league of 32 teams or whatever. Will we still watch that, or will we tend toward watching the 100 teams that were left behind?
I mean, you sit there and you do this super league and you say it's a football only thing, and you still keep your conferences for everything else, other sports, and maybe you even get more regionalized and go back to more of a natural breakdown to kind of cut back on some of these issues. I don't think that anybody's necessarily going to cry about not seeing Ohio State, Washington, women's basketball or whatever, but you sit there and you have your 32 team super league, and you do have short contracts in terms of where you're able to keep renegotiating. But we've seen ad revenues and things go up and go down, and everything streaming is the wave of the future, and then we saw a contraction of streaming services and everything else, and who's trying to buy Netflix and whatever. I mean, it's already complicated enough for fans to be able to stay on top of their favorite teams. But I still don't think we're that far away from still years, but I don't think we're that far away from the Super League, because I think the dollars are just going to warrant it.
Let's throw in some relegation. Let's just go full soccer on it. At least give other programs an opportunity to get in and allow some stakes for dropping out if you're just cashing checks like Purdue's and Northwesterns and things like that, where you're just part of things to keep cashing checks and you're not really doing anything to earn your keep. If you're in a super league, you better be pretty damn good and willing to lose your spot, and none of them will be willing to do that.
Well, what you're saying there, Tony, connected to, I think, where the conversation started in terms of revenue distribution, and what Steve was saying about what's being asked of these boosters, which has always been asked of the boosters, but it's exponentially greater for them to kick in year after year after year. And if they're kicking in for a 6-6 football program, they're going to get sick at kicking in, or they may just not have the resources even for the 11-1 programs. Leads me to where I can't believe that Ohio State in particular, and then Michigan, Penn State, USC right behind them, wouldn't be pounded down the doors of the Big Ten. Because if you take the TV ratings and then you put that against and as soon as you said whatever it stands at 90 or 95 million per team. You put those together and then you redistribute the money based on the popularity of the teams. You have it's not like Ohio State goes to 108 million and Northwestern drops to 72 million. No, it's like Northwestern may earn 3 or 4 million a year. So it would be like minuscule. And Ohio State's take would be astronomical. And we already see this play out with the new ACC deal with Florida State, Clemson, and Miami benefiting from a 60% share that's directed toward the TV ratings. That they wouldn't already be in those negotiations with the Big Ten to say, you need to do something different for us.
It would be amazing to see it all put together like that in terms of what every program has brought to the networks and what they're paid to bring, and who's the least valued and who is the most overvalued or undervalued or whatever. So that's like something that you read, that you saw, that like Northwestern would be earning like $3 million a year, or is that just
well, for example, when the ACC went to that formula, that 60-40 formula, I took the TV ratings for the season, and then I took the percentages and did the math breakdown with the percentages. I know I should have given this to Kevin to do, but I did the math breakdown of all the percentages to where, okay, if it's the ACC, so whatever, it was like 45 million per team, and then adjusted it all and laid it out there. And I went to a few people that know more about it than I do and are entrenched in the television industry. And I said, is this reasonable? And that's, you're not dead on with these numbers, but and it was, whoa, way out of whack. Wake Forest was getting kicked down from their 60 million to 14 million, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And, the disparity between a Florida State and Wake Forest went from, whatever it would be to, 118 million to 14 million.
The world needs ditch diggers too.
That's my thought in all of this, is the exact same thing. Every conference needs filler. And so that's, like every school cafeteria hamburger needs oats in it. It needs filler in there. It can't just all be beef. Are you crazy? You know how expensive that would be? It's just meat.
70% is more than enough.
Got to have some newspaper in there or whatever in there for fiber.
I remember one day in high school going and seeing the food get delivered, and it was grade E for edible. I was like, wow. and that's why I just have fudge rounds for lunch.
If it's not pizza day, yeah, just load up on the cupcakes. Sure.
Really.
All right, folks, we do this every Wednesday, as we have for years and years and years with these three, but now at 4 p.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesdays. And if you don't like that time, blame me. But it's still available at whatever point that you want it to be available, both the audio on your favorite audio platform or right here on YouTube. Kevin, what's going on with you this week?
Just dealing with, trying to get some ducks in a row for getting ready for spring ball, and maybe we will knock out a recorded Big Meat kickoff. Don't want to overpromise or whatnot. And you kind of were reading my mind. I was going to talk about the 2014 playoffs, so I'll put some days between it and come up with some fresh new ideas so I don't repeat myself here. But check me out over at on Twitter at Kevin_Noon, and of course over at BuckeyeHuddle.com.
Tony.
Yeah, right now, going through over the course of the last couple of weeks and into spring ball, how Ohio State will replace each of their departed starters, and taking a look at some second-year players as well, and how they performed in their first year and what to expect in the second year, and then doing some podcasts about those same things, and probably going to have to do something on the 2014 playoff and why it's good and why it's bad and what would be better, that sort of thing. So you can find all of that at just search Buckeye Weekly Podcast on any podcast platform, or just go to youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle as well.
What you got, Steve?
Going to be at the Combine next week. Looking forward to that. A chance to talk to a lot of these guys who are favorites, both of the fans and of the media over the last few years, like Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs, and certainly Carnell Tate and a few others. So that should be a lot of fun. Arvell Reese is not the most talkative guy in the world. In fact, he had to do a sit-down interview with the Cleveland TV station, came down to an interview day, I think either before the Indiana game or the Michigan game, one or the other. And he got up from the interview, took off the microphone, handed it to whoever, and then immediately found Jerry Emig or Mike Bassford and said, I really don't want to ever have to do that again. So he's in for quite a rude awakening when he'll have about 100 people standing out there peppering him with questions at the NFL Combine.
Have you heard from the Jets?
Yeah, have you heard from the Jets? That's one of our all-time standbys. One of the Jets fanboy websites had a guy there, and he, honest to God, asked anybody who could have been predicted in the top 100 in the draft if they had heard from the Jets. And I mean, eventually by the third day, I'm asking people if they've been heard from the Jets just to get the question out of the way so we can get on with the rest of the interview. So, it was a lot of fun.
I was attempting to go to my X account, but it's on one of those. Something went wrong. Something retry. So anyway, I found the latest Michigan moron who had posted the number of number one weeks in the AP poll by college football teams all time, and Ohio State's lagging behind Alabama at number 2, and Michigan is nowhere in sight. But they're making fun of Ohio State being number 2 on the list.
Well, they added 14 more weeks to it this year, so I think that's a pretty good showing, even though it did not translate into a national championship or even a national championship game berth or even a semifinal berth. So, otherwise it was, in terms of AP poll rankings, about as good a year as you could possibly have.
All right. So I feel pretty good about this, that the same person that said this, Ohio State sucks for someone so good I think they suck, that's the same person that says Mark can't admit that he's wrong a fair amount of the time. Well, that makes me feel much better about that second statement. Thank you for that. All right. For Kevin, for Tony, for Steve, it's Buckeyes Live. We'll see you back here next Wednesday. Remember, 4 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you then.